The mic is hot. Let's break this down. Do me a favor, just put the coffee down for a second. Seriously, I need you to actually look at this photo I just sent you. Don't just scroll past it. Open it up. Zoom in. You see the guy in the back? The one in the Navy suit looking like he hasn't slept in a week? That's Undersecretary Hellberg. Now look at the table. Look at the folder lying open right next to his hand. I know, the resolution is terrible, it's grainy, but if you squint, you can read the header. Pax Silica, piece of silicon. I mean, the arrogance, it's breathtaking, isn't it? You turn on the TV right now, and what are they telling you? I checked the headlines this morning. The Times is calling it a strategic mineral cooperation framework. CNN is running a ticker that says, allies agree to supply chain stability. Stability. They are looking you right in the face and telling you it's raining while they piss on your leg. Sorry, but that's what this is. Because I've read the text. I didn't sleep last night because I was reading the actual 60-page document, not the press release they fed to the reporters. And what's sitting on that table? It isn't a trade deal. It's not a framework. It's an eviction notice. Think about what actually happened on Friday afternoon. This wasn't a summit. It was a gang-up. You had the United States, you had Japan, South Korea, Australia, Israel, all in one room, and at exactly 2 p.m., they didn't just decide to work together. They decided to construct a 50-foot concrete wall around the single most important resource of the 21st century. This isn't tariffs. Tariffs are taxes. You pay the tax, you do business. It sucks, but you survive. It's an excommunication. They just looked at the second largest economy on the planet, the world's factory, the engine that has kept the lights on for 30 years, and they pulled the plug. Literally. They reached behind the server rack and yanked the cord out of the wall. And I don't think people get it. I really don't think they understand the physics of what just happened. This isn't competition. This is the entire periodic table being weaponized. You have Australia saying, we own the dirt, the lithium, the silica. You have Japan saying, we own the chemistry to process it. You have Korea saying, we own the factories. And you have the US saying, we own the blueprints. And as of Friday, all 5 of them signed a piece of paper that says, none of this goes to China, ever again. Do you understand the scale of that? It's not a sanction, it's a technological amputation. They just told Beijing, to their faces basically, that their AI superpower dream, it's not delayed, it's gone. It is physically impossible to build the future when you are locked out of the raw materials required to build it. But here is the thing. Here is the part that is actually making me sweat. The part nobody's talking about because it's terrifying. China hasn't said a word. Usually, the wolf warriors are screaming on Twitter within an hour. They threaten Boeing, they sanction soybeans, they make noise. But since Friday afternoon, silence. Absolute dead silence. And that scares me more than any press conference ever could. Because you don't do this. You don't humiliate a global superpower. You don't force them to their knees in front of the whole world and expect them to just take it. You just don't. We didn't just sign a deal, we lit a fuse. And right now, we're all just sitting here watching the sparks burn down, pretending we don't know what happens when it hits the powder. I'm telling you, the world changed on Friday. And most people are going to wake up tomorrow morning thinking it's just another Monday. God, I wish they were right. But they aren't. And to understand why I am freaking out, you have to stop listening to the guys in the bow ties on CNBC and look at the actual timeline. You have to go back to 2015. That was the year Beijing published a document called Made in China 2025. You remember that? Probably not. Most people in Washington treated it like a brochure. They treated it like a corporate mission statement. They laughed at it. Oh, look at China. They want to dominate high-tech manufacturing. That's cute. But there was a small group of guys in D.C. who didn't laugh. One of them was Jacob Hellberg. You know who I'm talking about, right? The guy in the photo. He isn't a politician, he's an operator. He's been moving through the State Department and the think tanks for a decade, saying the same thing to anyone who would listen. He said, "They aren't trying to compete with us, they're trying to evict us." For 10 years, Hellberg and the China Hawks were the crazy ones. They were the guys shouting in the back of the room while Apple and Tesla were busy building mega factories in Shanghai. The Wall Street guys told them to shut up. The lobbyists told them they were dangerous. The refrain was always the same. The supply chain is too complex. You can't untangle it. It's impossible. Well, guess what? On Friday, the crazy guys got the pen. And that is why this is so different from the trade wars we saw back in 2018 or 2024. Those were tantrums. This is architecture. Pax Silica isn't something Trump just tweeted out at 3 a.m. on the toilet. This is a doctrinal shift that has been written, rewritten, and red-teamed for 5 years in the basement of the State Department. Now, I know what the skeptics are saying. I can hear the TV anchors right now. They're saying, oh, this is just posturing. The U.S. needs China. Apple needs China. They'll never actually enforce the hard exclusion clauses. That is the single most dangerous assumption you can make right now, because you are looking at the 2020 economy, and they are building the 2030 bunker. The people who wrote this document, Hellberg, the guys on the NSC, the Japanese Ministry of Economy, they know exactly what this does to the price of your iPhone. They know this makes a Tesla $10,000 more expensive next year. They know it spikes inflation. They don't care. And that is the villain in this story. It's not Xi Jinping. It's not even Trump. The villain is the new consensus. The villain is the realization that efficiency is dead. For 30 years, we worshipped at the altar of just-in-time. We built a world where a microchip is designed in California, etched in Taiwan, tested in Malaysia, assembled in Shenzhen, and sold in New York, all to save 3 cents on the dollar. It was beautiful, it was efficient, and it was a trap. Because the moment Beijing decided to leverage that efficiency, the moment they threatened to cut off the gallium and the germanium last year, the game changed. Pax Silica is the West admitting that the free market lost. And let's look at the coalition of the willing here, because this is where the knife twists. Japan? They aren't doing this because they love us. They are doing this because they are terrified. They have Chinese destroyers parking off the Senkaku Islands every week. Australia? They are doing this because their entire mining sector was about to be swallowed whole by state-owned Chinese enterprises. Israel? They are doing this because they need the U.S. security umbrella more than they need Chinese infrastructure money. It's a marriage of fear, and those are the strongest marriages in geopolitics. But here is the detail that nobody is mentioning, the one that actually makes me feel sick for the average person in Shanghai, or frankly, the average person in Chicago. This document redefines dual use. In the old days, we banned weapons. We banned missile guidance chips. Simple. Pax Silica bans precursor technologies. Do you know what that means? It means we aren't just banning the weapon, we're banning the foundational software that trains the AI that might one day design the weapon. We're banning the specific grade of silica sand required to polish the lens that goes into the machine that makes the chip. It is a level of granularity that is insane. It is forensic. And the result? We're creating two internets, two distinct biological ecosystems of technology. On one side, you have the Pax Silica zone, the US, Europe, Japan, Korea, Australia, a walled garden where the AI is trained on trusted data and runs on trusted chips. On the other side, you have the red zone, China, Russia, Iran, and whoever else gets locked out. And here's the false hope. Here's the lie everyone tells themselves to sleep at night. China will just build their own. They're smart. They have 1.4 billion people. They'll figure it out. No, they won't. Not this time. Because you can't code your way out of geology. You can't software update your way around the fact that you need extreme ultraviolet lithography machines that have 100,000 parts, and the only company that makes them, ASML, is in the Netherlands, which just happened to send a delegation to the Pax Silica summit. China can build 10,000 factories. They can pour $1 trillion into Huawei, but if they can't get the mirrors from Germany, and they can't get the lasers from San Diego, and they can't get the chemicals from Tokyo, those factories are just empty buildings. And Xi Jinping knows it. That's why he's quiet. He isn't plotting his revenge. He's checking the inventory. He's looking at his stockpiles of chips and realizing he has about 18 months before the lights start to flicker. And when a superpower realizes it has an expiration date, that is when things get dangerous. That is when the rational actors leave the room. So, we have the villain, the inevitable collision of two empires. We have the weapon, the supply chain blockade. Now, let me tell you how they are actually going to execute this without crashing the entire global economy. Or at least, how they think they are going to. Because if you think your 401k is safe because you own American companies, you need to see the mechanism. Okay, so we know who did it. We know why they did it. Now you need to understand how they are actually pulling this off, because that is the part that is going to change your life in about 6 months. Most people think a blockade means battleships sitting off the coast of Shanghai. No, that is 20th century thinking. In 2025, you don't need battleships. You just need a spreadsheet. The mechanism inside this Pax Silica document is called the Unified Entity List. Here is how it works. In the old days, if a Chinese company wanted high-end chips, the US would say no. Simple. But then that company would just set up a shell company in Dubai or Vietnam or Mexico. They would buy the chips there, put them on a plane, and fly them to Beijing. It was a game of whack-a-mole. Pax Silica ends the game. It creates a closed-loop system. Think of it like a digital radioactive tracer. Every single gram of lithium mined in Australia is now tagged on a shared blockchain ledger. That lithium goes to Japan for processing, tagged. It goes to Taiwan for manufacturing, tagged. It goes to the US for final assembly, tagged. If at any point, that ledger shows the material moving to a non-compliant jurisdiction, that's the polite word for China, the entire chain freezes. The insurance is voided, the shipping is canceled, the bank accounts are locked. It is automatic. It is algorithmic. Here's the analogy I want you to burn into your brain. Imagine you live in a really nice gated community. Let's call it Silicon Estates. It has the best water, the best electricity, the fastest internet. For years, there was this guy down the street, let's call him Mr. Red, who didn't live in the community, but he ran the grocery store where everyone bought their food. He was essential, so the HOA let him come and go as he pleased. He used the pool, he used the gym, he was part of the ecosystem. But then Mr. Red started acting weird. He started telling the neighbors, "Hey, if you don't let me date your daughter, I'm gonna stop selling you milk." That's the gallium export ban China pulled last year. So the HOA, the US, Japan, etc., didn't just kick him out of the pool. They cut his water line. They cut his power line. They bricked up the road leading to his house. Pax Silica isn't just saying you can't come to the party. It is saying we are turning off your utilities. And honestly, I almost feel bad for the guys who had to sign this. Almost. Because I know Jacob Hellberg, I know the guys at the NSC. They aren't villains twirling mustaches. They are terrified. They looked at the data and they realized that if China decided to invade Taiwan tomorrow, they could shut down 90% of the world's antibiotic production and 80% of the world's EV battery production before the first shot was fired. They painted themselves into a corner. They realized that Mr. Red wasn't just a grocery store owner, he was holding a detonator. So they decided to blow up the bridge before he could press the button. I know, it sounds crazy. It sounds like something out of a Tom Clancy novel, a secret blockchain blockade that splits the world in half. I wish it was fiction, but let me walk you through the domino effect, because this is where it hits your wallet. Domino 1, the friend-shoring inflation spike. The moment this document was signed, every company in the blue team, the West, had to stop buying cheap Chinese supplies. They have to buy from Australia or Canada or the US. And guess what? That $800 iPhone? It's going to be $1,200 next year. That electric car? Add $5,000 to the sticker price. We are choosing security over affordability. Domino 2, the retaliation shock. China isn't just going to sit there and starve. They are going to weaponize what they still have. And what do they have? They have the legacy chips, the dumb chips, the ones that go in your toaster, your microwave, your brake pads, your insulin pump. While we are locking them out of the AI future, they can lock us out of the present. Imagine a world where we have super advanced AI, but we can't build a Ford F-150 because the 50-cent chip that controls the windshield wipers is stuck in Shanghai. Domino 3, the digital iron curtain. This is the end game. By 2027, the internet is going to split. You will have the Western net, powered by NVIDIA, censored by Western values, expensive and fast. And you will have the red net, powered by Huawei, censored by the CCP, cheap and surveillance heavy. Countries like Brazil, India, Indonesia, they are going to have to choose. Whose internet do you want to plug into? And once you pick a side, there is no switching back. We are watching the globalization of the last 30 years evaporate in a single weekend. And the scary part, we don't have a plan B. We just bet the entire global economy on the idea that we can survive without the one country that makes everything. It's a hell of a gamble. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave you? I'm not going to sit here and give you the sunshine and rainbows version. You have friends who will tell you, oh, America is winning. This is great. We're bringing the jobs back. And sure, maybe in 10 years that will be true. Maybe in 2035 we'll have robot factories in Ohio pumping out cheap toasters. But I'm not worried about 2035. I'm worried about next Tuesday. Because the ugly truth, the one the politicians won't tell you in an election year, is that divorces are expensive, and we just filed for the most expensive divorce in human history. In the next 6 to 12 months, you are going to see things in the grocery store that you haven't seen since the 1970s. You're going to see empty shelves, not because of a virus, but because of a trade war. You're going to see out-of-stock signs on things you took for granted: brake pads, antibiotics, batteries, the little things. And the prices? Get used to the new normal. You know how you complain that a burger costs $18 now? You're going to look back at $18 as the good old days. When you cut out the cheapest manufacturer in the world, the savings vanish. We are voluntarily choosing to be poorer in exchange for being safer. That is the trade-off. But it's not just about money. It's about the world your kids are going to grow up in. By 2030, we aren't going to be living in one world anymore. We're going back to the Cold War, but worse. It won't be East versus West. It will be the silicates versus the excluded. You're going to travel to parts of the world, maybe Southeast Asia, maybe Africa, and your phone just won't work. Your credit card won't swipe. You will physically cross a digital border where the internet is different, the truth is different, and the rules don't apply to you. We are building a digital Berlin Wall, and on Friday we laid the first brick. So what do you do? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not telling you to buy gold or crypto or bury cash in your backyard. That's panic. I don't want you to panic. I want you to be harder to kill. The next 5 years are going to be about friction. Friction in trade, friction in travel, friction in hiring. You need to tighten your circle. You need to stop relying on the global supply chain to solve your problems. If you run a business, stop buying parts from a guy you've never met in Shenzhen. Find a guy in Mexico. Find a guy in Ohio. Find a guy down the street. It will cost more, yes, but when the blockade hits, he'll still pick up the phone. And personally, get some skills that don't require a microchip. Learn to fix things, learn to build things, because the world of cheap, disposable, click-to-buy is dying. We are entering the age of repair, reuse, and hold on for dear life. Look, I know this is heavy. I know you just wanted to have coffee and talk about the game, but you needed to know. You needed to know that the ground shifted under your feet on Friday, even if the rest of the world is still sleepwalking. The Pax Silica isn't coming. It's here. The world just got a lot smaller, a lot more expensive, and a hell of a lot more dangerous. Stay sharp, stay hidden, and for God's sakes, don't believe the headlines. I'll see you in the comments.